Cut-out decorated cookies start the same way for me. Every single time there is a holiday, and with Valentine's Day coming up this weekend, I wanted to make some envelopes, love envelopes. I've shared this recipe before, and you can find it in my link tree. I repeat this recipe every time there's a holiday because it is a profitable recipe, it's delicious, and I really want to teach people how to apply rules of simplicity to remove the friction, not only to share the love of baking, possibly with your family or friends, while baking and decorating cookies together, but also for people who want to be profitable. The ingredients are inexpensive and forgiving, and I choose the simplest design well in advance in order to quickly get the job done. I don't overthink it or second guess it, and the impact is not per individual cookie, it's as a group. I am looking for a very tender cookie that remains very light and delicate on the tooth, that is not overly sweet or buttery in flavor. In fact, it's somewhat neutral, so that it pairs well with an overly sweet candy melt that I dip the cookie in before I pipe it with a donut icing that not only dries firmly very quickly, but is also very sweet. So as I go through every ingredient, I'm going to explain to you what it imparts into this cookie so you can understand why it's a little different than your typical sugar or butter cookie. You use the creaming method, but the sugar employed is not sucrose. It is 10x, 26% baker's percentage of powdered sugar. 10x has been milled 10 times, so it's very finely ground sucrose. It also has cornstarch in it, which dries out and firms up the cookie. The fats used are a combination of Sweetex and butter. Sweetex is an icing shortening that has powerful emulsifiers. Butter adds flavor and browning properties. By balancing the two fats, you get a more tender cookie with a lighter finished color after baking. Pastry flour is used because it has less protein and will stay more tender. Non-fat milk solids are used to impart the properties of dairy without the moisture. The limited percentage of liquids include whole eggs, whole milk, and vanilla. The creaming method is how these cookies are made, but we don't want to over-cream the fat and the sugar because we don't want to incorporate too much air. A cutout cookie should be rolled very thick and it should hold its shape while being baked. After the fat and sugar has been well emulsified but not overly aerated, the sifted dries are added, alternating with the wet ingredients and ending on dry ingredients. To avoid overmixing once the flours have been activated by the liquids, I finish mixing on a Silpat. This is to avoid overdeveloping the gluten and causing a tough cookie. I recommend baking directly on a baking sheet with a parchment, not a Silpat. You do not want the cookies to spread. They get baked at 325 and you should check them at around 5 minutes. They are completely done when a little bit of brown is creeping around the edges. I cool the cookies on the tray so that they can finish baking and solidify and become firm because they are actually very delicate. Candy melt firm up at room temperature. They do not need to go into the refrigerator. Donut icing or roll icing firms up very quickly. They can be wrapped within hours of being decorated. Depending on your packaging and your market, you can retail these cookies for between $5 and $10 a piece. For production, you can make the dough in sheets or pre-cut out shapes, wrap it tightly, and store it in the freezer for up to 3 months. After the dough is made in advance and safely frozen, you can focus on a very simple, easy to execute design with a cookie cutter that does not have too many corners. I like to use a gusseted poly bag and a really high quality pretty satin ribbon that I buy in bulk from a floral supply store. This recipe was a gift to me from Jackie Scott. In the spirit of women who don't gatekeep what they know, who share their very best recipes, the ones that they love and that have given them the most, both personally and professionally, I share this recipe and method in the same spirit. I hope you can feel my intention to share the love of baking. It's a win-win for all.